Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm so grateful. In today's video, I'm going to speak about whether you should or you shouldn't put a timeline, a deadline on any of the manifestations that you're currently working on. So I want to clear a few things before I start the video. First things first, can you manifest on deadline, on a timeline? Yes, you can. Okay, it's not impossible. Now, should you or should you not? I'll be explaining a few things about that in this video. Once you're done watching this video, you can make a decision for yourself. So setting a timeline, a deadline for any of the desire that you want materialized in your 3D reality is similar to setting a how for it, okay? It's not necessary to do it. You can keep it off the table if you want, because it's still going to happen if you put in the right kind of work, the right kind of mindset that you need. But is there any harm in putting it in setting a how, in setting a timeline? No, there's no harm. It's possible. You can do it if you want. But there are certain pros and cons of both the situations. So if you're someone who is able to set a timeline and is able to achieve things within that timeline, and if your expectation does not meet that timeline, it does not bring you down. If you are one of those, then this video is not for you. You can still watch it, but this video is mainly for the people who are trying to question the timeline, trying to set a timeline or a deadline or manifest on a time crunch when they are in this extreme state of being, which is around desperation, which is around urgency, which is around fear. So, my suggestion is, unless you are a master manifester, unless you are at least a master manifester in a few good areas of your life, leave the timeline off the table. In these kind of situations, when you put a timeline, when you put a deadline, out of fear, out of desperation, you create an atmosphere of waiting. It's like an added pressure you put on yourself, on your body, on your mind, or your manifestation process, in addition to all the pressure you already have. Because if you are in that energy of desperation, urgency, anxiousness, fear, there's already a lot of pressure and negative emotions going on within you that do not feel good, right? You're not feeling good right now in your mind, in your body. And putting a timeline there is like, adding to the list of the pressures you already have on yourself, the negative emotions you already have in yourself. Putting a timeline or a deadline would make you more anxious. Why would it make you more anxious? Because you will have your mind and eyes set on that specific date or month, okay? And because you are in that energy of desperation and urgency, your mind will keep wavering and your eyes will keep going to that timeline. And in these situations, what you're doing is, because your focus is majorly on that timeline, you would be doing techniques based off that timeline. So the nearer the date keeps coming, you kind of want to put in more forced effort into your techniques, so I can get my manifestation faster and it aligns and matches the timeline that I have set for it. In these cases, your major focus, which should be on feeling good within yourself, your self concept, your internal beliefs, your internal dialogue, shifts, and it dominantly is on that timeline. And if you're meeting that timeline or not, and if it's a timeline of 30 days, within 50 days, you haven't seen any movement, you don't see anything moving in the 3D, there are no changes in the 3D. You don't see someone texting you, you don't see someone initiating a conversation with you. So adding a timeline when your state of being is already in lack and anxiousness and urgency increases that anxiousness, it increases that urgency, it increases that desperation. In the journey of conscious creation, you need to keep your attention off the 3D, which does not mean that you have to wrap something around your eyes, become blind, and not, focus on the 3D at all. You have to keep your attention off the 3D in that specific area of your life. You need to keep your focus off that specific circumstance that is bothering you, not your entire 3D, because you're living in this. When we say you have to keep your attention off the 3D, does not mean that you have to stop enjoying your life and become blind to your 3D. It means that if I am manifesting something in a specific area of my life, around that area, if there are certain circumstances that are not aligned with what I'm seeking, I need to keep my attention off that, which means I do not have to give it an emotional reaction. That is what it means to ignore your 3D or take your attention off 3D. And when you're putting a timeline out of desperation, fear, and urgency, your attention is going to go more towards the 3D. So that's not helping you in your manifestation process. And that is something we are completely getting away from when we are coming into conscious creation. Putting in a deadline actually shifts your focus from your desire, from practicing being that person who has your desire, who knows the desire is showing up very soon, to the place where the result is going to show up. And you start tracking and monitoring it. If in a week there's no movement that is visible to you, but behind the scenes things are shifting, okay, but your eyes right now in this physical reality, it's not shown up, so your eyes can't see it. And in 2 weeks again, there's no specific physical movement. And in 3 weeks again. And why the movement is not there in that 1, 2, 3 weeks is this exact reason that your focus is more on it not being in the 3D reality than practicing what is needed for it to show up. So constantly your eyes and mind would be on that timeline by default. That's going to create more urgency, more questions, more waiting. Why is there no movement yet? If I need to get it in 30 days, at least by 10th, 15th, or 20th day, I should be seeing some movement. So again, your complete focus, try to understand this very clearly, is on the movement, on the 3D. Why is it not coming? Why don't I see any movement? Why don't I see any signs? Why is nothing happening? The timeline, the deadline is increasing your questions. It's increasing your state of being where you're waiting. It's going to bring you in the state of doubting this whole manifestation process even more, just because you don't see anything happening in the 3D. When we know that we don't want to be in the state of being where we are waiting, questioning, being in this energy of fear, desperation, urgency, why would we put in something in our manifestation journey that increases those negative emotions in us? So that's why it's always best to keep timeline off the table. As humans, we are so used to wanting to control everything that is going around us, okay, but control it physically, physically do something about it, or go and have a chat with someone, or force someone, or manipulate someone, or something, or a situation in a way that it works in our favor. So it's natural for us to question things a lot. We do that a lot, right? That's why we question the how a lot as well. And that's why we want to know the timeline. We want to set a timeline that, no, I want this by my birthday. I want this by the time the holiday season comes in. I want this within the next 1 month. And there's nothing wrong in that. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are able to do it, okay, if you are in a good energy while doing that, if that is keeping your focus in the right places and not wavering you from the practice of conscious creation, then do it, because it is possible. But when you are already in that energy of desperation, fear, urgency, wanting to go out and do something, wanting to force someone to talk to you, that kind of energy, when something has just taken place in your life and you're in that questioning mode, and all of a sudden you find these manifestation videos and you feel it's like a shortcut to getting something you want, so you want to in the manifestation journey as well, you're trying to bring in the manipulation, which you're doing in an autopilot mode. But here that manipulation will not work out. I need this within 1 week, what can I do? I need this within 1 month, what can I do? What can you do will never change, okay? Just because you need something within 1 month, it does not change how it's going to show up in your reality. It does not change the process, how it should be materialized in your reality. The process remains the same. So the faster you can bring yourself in that state of being where you are relaxed, where you build in that confidence and self concept that you deserve these things, where you have normalized this for yourself, where you have worked on an inner dialogue that will eventually fade away your limiting beliefs, the faster you can do all that is the fastest way to bring in your manifestation, to speed up your manifestation, whether it's 1 week or 1 month. It's the same things I've discussed in one of my earlier videos, that, how long will my manifestation take to come into my life? I think it's titled as Time Lag. I will link it up here. You can have a look. These answers are not with anyone. I cannot tell you if it will come for you in 1 week or 1 month if you have set that timeline for yourself. If you have set that timeline, then in addition to making that decision and wanting that, also ensure that you are aligning your inner work in a way where you know in 1 month that inner work will be done, where you know in 1 week your inner work will be done. And I mentioned this in my earlier video as well. People don't want to hear these things, okay? They don't want a reality check. They view conscious creation, as I mentioned, as a shortcut to something, okay? And they don't want to hear these things that, you cannot even answer that, when will I get it? No, I cannot. I'm not in your mind. I'm not in your body, okay? Where your mind is at, what is the dominant story you hold throughout the day, what kind of emotions you indulge in, what kind of things you dwell on, that is your personal state of being. So, no one, no coach, unless they are doing some personal coaching with you and they can track your progress through, regular sessions. No one can tell you how long will your desire take. You need to monitor your own progress, especially people who are um, not taking personal coaching for whatever reasons, or they don't want to. You need to track your own progress. You need to set benchmarks for yourself. You need to set reference points for yourself to ensure that you are tracking your progress, that you can easily figure out with the type of thoughts you're having, with the kind of inner dialogue you're having. If any opposition shows up, what are the immediate sentences that go up in your mind? Okay. How are your limiting beliefs this month compared to last month? How are you waking up in the morning this week compared to a few weeks back? What are the inner dialogues you're having when an opposite circumstance shows up? What are the inner dialogues going on within you this month compared to a few days back or last month? You need to track your progress. You need to, compliment yourself when you are making progress, and you need to be your own cheerleader. uh, People who are definitely, they take personal coaching and everything, yes, that is what you are paying the coach for. They will do the hand holding, okay? They will do the spoon feeding. They would track the progress with you. They would give you all kinds of tips and tricks for you to deal with these kind of circumstances or situations or emotions. But if you're not doing that, then you need to take up that kind of responsibility where you're tracking your own discipline. So you can ensure that, okay, if I'm putting a timeline or deadline to this, it's not out of fear, urgency, or desperation, but because I have that kind of faith and confidence that it will arrive by the end of next month, it will arrive in the next 6 months. Things will change for me this year. Things will be completely different for me than they were last year. So, those were all the reasons why people who are already feeling low and down should not really put on the pressure of a timeline on themselves. Now, when can you actually put a deadline or timeline? See, for some people, when they put a deadline, right, it's kind of a target for them, it's kind of a goal setting. So it fuels their motivation to work towards it harder. Same way you have targets in your company, right? For the next 6 months you have certain KRAs that you have to meet, specifically in startups. So you would be working towards them, right? When you have a plan in place, I have to get this done by this time. So you reverse engineer and make a plan accordingly. So for some people, goal setting a timeline works in a way of giving them positive motivation. If it's giving you positive motivation, if actually setting a deadline or a timeline helps you in working towards it better, helps you in putting in the correct kind of work to improve your practice of conscious creation, then yes, you should be setting a timeline because it's helping you. If you are someone who knows you can work towards your desired reality in a better manner when you set a timeline, and Okay, and if it doesn't exactly meet that timeline, you're okay if it's a month later, 2 months later, it does not exactly meet that, but that does not bring you down. Okay, because you assumed a timeline and it helped you in practicing conscious creation better. But it does not demotivate you in any way or suddenly shift you in that state of being where you are doubting, doubting in a way that, this doesn't work. I'm going to give up, this doesn't work. It doesn't do that to you. In those cases, yes, you can set a timeline for yourself. Now, I also want to share what do I do personally. Do I set any kind of timelines when I am materializing certain experiences, certain desires in my 3D reality? So, most of the time, I assume a timeline for fun, okay, for fun and entertainment purposes. And I like setting timelines, not a week or a month, I don't do that, but I like setting timelines within the next 2 3 months or 6 months. That's usually how I set my timelines, because that gives me enough time and my mind enough time to let myself believe that I can do it by then. I do not put pressure on myself. I do not bring myself in situations where I am increasing my resistance. Okay. I am really compassionate with myself. Whenever I'm trying to create any desired reality, I'm really kind towards myself. And that's how you should be in this journey of conscious creation and generally in life. Okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't force yourself into techniques or things that are making you feel, they're not making you feel good. Okay, you're forcefully doing it because you heard somewhere that this works for 10 people, so it should work for me. So no, techniques don't work. I mean, all techniques don't work for everyone. There are so many techniques I don't resonate with. Okay, I do specifically 2 3 techniques that really work for me. That's why I don't even like answering this question ever, that suggest some kind of techniques that would make it come faster, or that would make me feel good, or that would make me feel not exhausted. Because techniques are techniques, it's the way you're doing it. If you're doing, I can only suggest techniques to you where I'm giving you all the options. I can give you 10 techniques, but all the techniques can exhaust you if you get obsessed with it. So there's nothing wrong with the technique. The techniques is not exhausting you. The way you're doing the technique is exhausting you. You need to test and try techniques out and see what brings you most in that state of experiencing that within you, which makes you feel good. Okay, that will be your technique. Once you find your technique, stick to it. So personally, in the areas where I have a really good belief already built up over the last few years, that includes my career, money, and money is the topic, right? Under money, my appraisals, my hikes, the kind of salaries I look for in career, new job opportunities, those kind of things, my family relationships, my health, all these areas I have built really good belief around these over the past few years. So these areas I have very minimum to zero resistance. So around these areas I like setting deadlines because it fuels my motivation to work towards it. So when I know in my company, every 6 months is an appraisal cycle. Okay, it's a salary correction cycle. So those 6 months, I already know the timeline. Okay, there's a timeline. I work towards it in a way that I will get this in this cycle. I will get it in the next 6 months. This is the amount I'm going to receive in the next 6 months. This is the hike I'm going to achieve in the next 6 months. Even with job interviews and career opportunities, I always know when I'm switching jobs that I won't be sitting idle for long. It's a belief I've built up, and because I built up that belief initially, it showed up a lot in my reality. And once it started showing up a lot, it hardened that assumption into a fact for me. So now it's not difficult for me. I know if I want to switch a job, it doesn't affect me if the market condition is not good. It does not affect me if right now in that specific area there are no hirings, like hirings have reduced a lot in the market. I don't get bothered by any of that. I know if I want to switch a job, at least maximum within a month I'll have a new job, and that new job will be exactly the salary that I decide I want. Now the areas around which I might have resistance, that could be because I've never manifested that before, That's why it might seem big to me, and I might have some negative experiences attached to it before that. Around those things, as I mentioned, because I am very compassionate towards myself, I do not put that pressure of timeline on myself, because if I'm already in that energy of fears and doubts, timeline is just going to add on to those feelings. It's not going to make me feel good. And I don't do the things that don't make me feel good. And that is something I will always suggest in all my videos, that you stay away from the things that don't make you feel good. This whole journey of selecting your experiences consciously, having them show up in your reality, is because you want to experience good things that make you feel a certain way, you know and you don't have to torture your way into it. Okay, self concept means being good to yourself, having good thoughts about yourself, being confident in yourself. That does not come by torturing yourself, that does not come by exhausting yourself. So you have to be compassionate to your mind and body, and not force yourself into things that are not making you feel good. So around those things, I don't set a timeline, and I don't feel the need to set a timeline, because I have this other belief that it will show up very soon. So that is my belief. I don't need a timeline, because setting a specific month or 2 months, 3 months, 6 months period is going to make me anxious. So I work more towards these beliefs that it will come very soon. It will come very soon. My resistance, limiting beliefs will dissolve away very soon. Okay, I put in my focus and my practices in changing my inner dialogue, in dealing with my resistance, all of that. And I keep this belief on top of my head that it will come very soon. It's not going to take long. None of my manifestations take long. It's going to show up really soon. It's going to show up in the most natural and beautiful way possible. And around those areas where I have good beliefs set in, as I mentioned earlier, again, it's not necessary that I do set timelines. What makes me feel good, I do it. Okay, sometimes in certain things I set timelines, like careers and hikes and appraisals, and certain places I don't set timelines. And because I don't have resistance in those areas, because I am confident in those areas, because I have good belief built already around those areas, my need of questioning, waiting is not there. It does not exist for those areas, because I know if I choose this experience, it's going to show up very soon. It's going to show up in a few days or a few weeks, and I'm completely okay with that kind of timeline. I'm okay with 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It does not bother me. And because it does not bother me, I'm completely relaxed about it. Setting a timeline is not a big deal for me. If I say it has to come by my birthday, if my birthday has come and gone and the thing has not shown up, it does not bring me down. I'm already in that state of being around those areas where I'm so confident that setting a timeline is for all the good reasons. It's motivating me, it's making me feel good, and it's not bringing me down if it doesn't happen. I'm okay. It can show up, in the next few weeks, in the next months, and I'm completely fine with it. That's the kind of relaxed state, relaxed, confident, peaceful state you should be in, actually. So that's why, like I was mentioning, unless you are a master manifester, it's always suggested not to put the pressure of a deadline on yourself. And master manifester, you can be a manifester in certain areas of your life, and in certain areas you might be working towards becoming one. Okay, so that's all I wanted to discuss in this video. I really hope I was able to add some value to your manifestation process. In case you have any kinds of question, you can leave it in the comment section below. I have my Instagram linked below for a regular dose of motivation, and my second YouTube channel, which is about self-development and mindset, not really from a manifestation perspective, but in general. So if the videos interest you over there, you can have a look. I will see you in the next video. Till then, have a great week.